Hey there, and welcome back to Why Are You Sober? I'm Sam, and I'm still reading through Living Sober. I'm on section 2 today. So I just thought that from now on with the podcast, I'm actually going to do readings on Tuesdays and release those. And then on Thursdays, I'll do more interviews and Reddit stories and comments and kind of more topic oriented stuff. So, yeah, today, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. Um, still kind of dealing with depression, but I'm getting back and feeling good about that. Working through stuff with relationships in my life, and you know, still trying to be the best person and get better at life every day. I keep trying and failing at it, but I keep just moving along. So I hope leave some comments or have some questions. Leave them here, and thanks for being on this journey with me. So, as I said, I'm reading through Living Sober, and I'm on part two, which is actually pretty short, but we will get going with it. So here it is. Part two: Staying away from the first drink. Expressions commonly heard in AA are, if you don't take that first drink, you won't get drunk, and one drink is too many, but 20 are not enough. And I definitely relate to that, or I did relate to that back in my drinking days. I remember when one drink was too many, but 20 when I would start drinking, then 20 is not enough at that point. So many of us, when we first began to drink, never wanted or took more than one or two drinks. But as time went on, we increased the number. Then, in later years, we found ourselves drinking more and more. Some of us getting and staying very drunk. Maybe our condition didn't always show in our speech or our gait, but by this time we were never actually sober. And also, I'm just saying, I'm at work, I'm on my lunch break, and I just thought this would be fun because I kind of needed to read, and I actually hear all the kids outside. At my place of work, we have two schools, and we have a preschool, in fact. And so the kids are playing in the gym because it's been pretty wet up here in the mountains. So if you hear some kids in the background, that's just what's happening. They're walking past my office. Anyways, so the last sentence of that paragraph was, maybe our condition didn't always show in our speech or our gait, but by this time we were never actually sober. And I remember those times of trying to pretend I wasn't just so I was sober, trying to pretend I hadn't been drinking or didn't have substances in my body. If that bothered us too much, we would cut down or try to limit ourselves to just one or two, or switch from hard liquor to beer or wine. At least we tried to limit the amount so we would not get too disastrously drunk, or we try to hide how much we drank. I'm currently taking classes to become a addiction counselor, and one of the first signs is one of those things of trying to control our substances of choice and being unable to control them. That is one of the major and biggest signs of addiction. So I definitely relate to that. But all these measures got more and more difficult. Occasionally, we even went on the wagon and did not drink at all for a while. Eventually, we would go back to drinking just one drink, and since that apparently did no serious damage, we felt it was safe to have another. Maybe that was all we took on that occasion, and it was a great relief to find we could take just one or two, then stop. Some of us did that many times. I am in that boat of many times, and this is something I love about this book. Is there are so many times where I can relate to actually what they're saying, and this is one of those sections where it's like I totally experienced all of these things, and I can relate to all the statements that they're saying. But the experience proved to be a snare. It persuaded us that we could drink safely. Then there would come the occasion, some special occasion, a personal loss, or no particular event at all, when two or three made us feel fine, so we thought one or two more could not hurt. And with absolutely no intention of doing so, we found ourselves again drinking too much. We were right back where we had been, over drinking without really wanting to. That is another sign of addiction I've been learning about, is not just being unable to stop or unable to control it, but you go right back to where you were when you have had some kind of brief period of of relief or no of not doing anything. Um, is that when you actually do start, you go right back to it, and that is something I've heard regularly all the time from people. So, such repeated experiences have forced us to this logically inescapable conclusion. If we do not take the first drink, we never get drunk. Therefore, instead of planning never to get drunk, or trying to limit the number of drinks or the amount of alcohol, we've learned to concentrate on avoiding only one drink, the first. And that is the key. Is you have to be able to have the self-control to stop there. And you know what? Everybody has it. Sometimes though, we just need some help with support in that. And that's one of the reasons I highly always suggest AA, or at least group therapy for people, because when you have the support of others around you, it really does become easier, and being able to relate to people is so helpful, and having the empathy and sympathy from yourself for others, but also from people, is great. And AA is such a great place to learn that too, to learn empathy and sympathy for people. In effect, instead of worrying about limiting the number of drinks at the end of a drinking episode, we avoid the one drink that starts it. Sounds almost foolishly simplistic, doesn't it? It's hard for many of us now to believe that we never really figured this out for ourselves before we came to AA. That is serious. Is if I just didn't do the first drink, I would be fine. That's hard to realize, and it's so simple. Sometimes the easiest things are the simplest. And we as addicts, and especially me, love to overcomplicate everything and make things harder than they have to be. Of course, to tell the truth, we never really wanted to give up drinking altogether, either, until we learned about alcoholism. But the point is, we know now that this is what works. Instead of trying to figure out how many we could handle, 4, 6, a dozen, we remember, just don't pick up that first drink. It is so much simpler. The habit of thinking this way has helped hundreds of thousands of us to stay sober for years. Doctors who are experts on alcoholism tell us that there is a sound medical foundation for avoiding the first drink. It is the first drink which triggers, immediately, or sometime later, the compulsion to drink more and more until we are in drinking trouble again. Many of us have come to believe that our alcoholism is an addiction to the drug alcohol. Like addicts of any sort who want to maintain recovery, we have to keep away from the first dose of the drug we have become addicted to. Our experience needs to prove this, as you can read in the book Alcoholics Anonymous and in our Grapevine magazine, and as you can hear wherever AA members get together and share their experiences. And that is the complete truth. I mean, it really is the truth. Sorry, just looking at how long the next section is, because I think I might read it. But yeah, it's just in avoiding that first drink, just knowing that, I don't have to drink. And if I just don't do that, if I do something else, like go for a walk, or sit and read some literature, do a video, talk with my husband, call my dad, I can avoid getting into a worse situation by just doing those things. And the other thing is think about just today. You don't have to think about tomorrow. You don't have to think about the next day. You just have to think about just today. And I am actually going to read the next section. It is section 3, and it is using the 24-hour plan. In our drinking days, we often had such bad times that we swore never again. We took pledges for as long as a year, or promised someone we would not touch the stuff for 3 weeks or 3 months, and of course, we tried going on the wagon for various periods of time. I remember doing that so many times, and being like, I'm never drinking again, having the worst hangover, and being like, I am never drinking again. And I always somehow ended up back doing it, even if it was just after a day or two, or a week, or even a month. I would just come back. We were absolutely sincere when we voiced these declarations through gritted teeth. With all our hearts, we wanted never to be drunk again. We were determined. We swore off drinking altogether, intending to stay off alcohol well into some indefinite future. Yet, in spite of our intentions, the outcome was almost inevitably... Sorry, let's try that again. Yet, in spite of our intentions, the outcome was almost inevitably the same. Eventually, the memory of the vows and of the suffering that led to them faded. We drank again, and we wound up in more trouble. Our dry forever had not lasted very long. Some of us who took some pledges had a private reservation. We told ourselves that the promise not to drink applied only to hard stuff, not to beer and wine, and in that way we learned, if we did not already know it, that beer and wine could get us drunk too. We just had to drink more of them to get the same effect we got on distilled spirits. We wound up as drunk on beer or wine as we had been before on the hard stuff. Yes, others of us did give up alcohol completely and did keep our pledges exactly as promised until the time was up. Then we ended the drought by drinking again, and were soon right back in trouble with an additional load of new guilt and remorse. What they're saying there is that, we were, especially for me, when I was able to be like, oh, I'm only going to drink on the weekends, or I'm not going to drink this month. Then, when I was then giving myself permission to drink because I accomplished that goal, I went overboard every time. With such struggles behind us now, in AA, we try to avoid the expressions on the wagon and taking the pledge. They remind us of our failures. Although we realize that alcoholism is a permanent, irreversible condition, our experience has taught us to make no long-term promises about staying sober. We found it more realistic and more successful to say, I'm not taking a drink just for today. Even if we drank yesterday, we can plan on not drinking today. We may drink tomorrow. Who knows whether we'll even be alive then. But for this 24 hours, we decide not to drink. No matter the temptation or provocation, we determine to go to any extremes necessary to avoid a drink today. Our friends and families are understandably weary of hearing us vow, this time I really mean it, only to see us lurch home loaded. So we do not promise them, or even each other, not to drink. Each of us promises only herself or himself. It is, after all, our own health and life at stake. We, not our family or friends, have to take the necessary steps to stay well. If the desire to drink is really strong, many of us chop the 24 hours down into smaller parts. We decide not to drink for, say, at least 1 hour. We can endure the temporary discomfort of not drinking for just 1 more hour, then 1 more, and so on. Many of us began our recovery in just this way. In fact, every recovery from alcoholism began with 1 sober hour. One version of this is simply postponing the next drink. How about it? Still sipping soda? Have you really postponed that drink we mentioned back on page 1? If so, this can be the beginning of your recovery. The next drink will be available later, but right now we postpone taking it, at least for the present day or moment, say for the rest of this page. The 24-hour plan is very flexible. We can start it afresh at any time, wherever we are, at home, at work, in a bar, or in a hospital room, at 4 p.m. or at 3 a.m. We can decide right then not to take a drink during the forthcoming 24 hours or 5 minutes. Continually renewed, this plan avoids the weakness of such methods as going on the wagon or taking a pledge. A period on the wagon and a pledge both eventually came as planned to an end, so we felt free to drink again. But today is always here. Life is daily. Today is all we have, and anybody can go 1 day without drinking. First, we try living in the now just in order to stay sober, and it works. Once the idea has become a part of our thinking, we find that living life in 24-hour segments is an effective and satisfying way to handle many other matters as well. So that was part 3 also. I really do love this book. There's so much that relates to life, and I think relates to alcohol, not just alcohol, but to addicts in general. I really love talking to addicts and learning about addictions of all kinds. I love learning about process addictions like gambling and other addictions that I don't have, like eating disorders. And, there are and even hard drugs. I do not really have much experience with those things. And I love talking to people about that and learning about them and hearing their stories. One of my favorite books was by Nikki Sticks and is The Heroin Diaries, about his journey through heroin. That is one of the most graphic books I've ever read, but it's amazing. And also Matthew Perry's book. man, that guy, I love Matthew Perry, and I'm really sad that he's gone. He had some serious, addiction issues, not just alcohol, but even with drugs. And you know, I I'm just grateful that he had those periods where he was sober and he even could just talk about his addiction because he could still teach so many people um, about the joys of being sober because he did experience those throughout his life, and I'm grateful for that. So, anyways, I'm not going to sit here and just dialogue on for a while, but I hope you guys have a great day. Again, as always, if you want to comment, I would love to talk with you or get in touch with me, and I hope to see you later. Wishing you all a whole lot of peace, love, and joy.